evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective Soiree. I'm Gautam Srinivasan, your host, and we are here to have a lot of conversation points discussed with a galaxy of leaders who are here from diverse sectors. And of course, in today's digital world, businesses are collecting an enormous amount of data, but the idea is what to do with that data because it covers various business functions. So we look at the enabling aspects for corporations to kind of transform by integrating technology into all of their areas of business and fundamentally change in the process the way that which they operate. And of course, the key, delivering value to customers. And we also see it ushering a sort of a cultural change in the organization because you have to continuously change to make sure that you're servicing your customers in the right way. And customers in today's world are always on, and their preferences shift in a millisecond, so to say. So your organization has to be ready to deliver on those expectations. The pace of change, as I mentioned, is very fast. And it has a flip side because at times it's forcing enterprises, so to say, to go for a haphazard tech adoption. So some questions that we are going to discuss in this collective. How can enterprises avoid this? How can businesses sort of make the most of their digital technology, digital transformation initiatives? So lots of points to discuss. But before that, let me first invite Rajiv to give us some points of view, the broad strokes, so to say, on thinking about this issue deeply.
Let me begin, first of all, by thanking each one of you. We have participants from various industries cutting across healthcare, airline operations, we have entertainment, we have PVR there. So thanks a lot for coming in on a Friday evening. We really appreciate you taking the time out. I'll just take a couple minutes to explain to you what ServiceNow is doing on a Forbes event, and the thinking essentially on the ServiceNow side is, and to explain that, allow me a minute to give you a background on ServiceNow. So ServiceNow is a $7 billion revenue software company headquartered out of US in the California. And we believe we are at the forefront of enabling digitization for enterprises and organizations like yourself. So we've been at it for almost like 12, 13 years. Some of the top enterprises worldwide that you look at, for instance, if you look at the Forbes Top 100, 80 of those would be ServiceNow customers. They would be leveraging the platform to be able to enable their own digital transformation journeys. So that's where we come in, and as you would imagine, so we are in the space of B2B. We engage with the CXOs in the various large enterprises like yourself, and our usual point of connect or a large part of our engagements actually used to be with the CIOs or now the CDOs. But what we realized is that the agenda that we are essentially driving for enterprises, which is the agenda of digital transformation, and knowing how deep digital now is into business. I mean, digital is not today no more an enabler for business. It is actually the business for pretty much any industry that you look at. So that being the case, we realize that even in terms of our engagement levels also, I think we need to raise the level and take it to the level of the COOs or the CEOs here like Rishi. So that really is the idea behind joining hands with Forbes and setting up some of these dialogues. So we've had interactions with almost 50 odd CEOs across the country, and we are going to bring all of that together in the form of videos, in the form of a very content-rich website, which, once we are finished with this in about a month's time, you'll be able to access all of that content on that website. So that broadly is the idea. A warm welcome once again, and I look forward to, we already had some interesting conversations on the sidelines. I look forward to, hearing some more from each one of you on that, picking a few interesting ideas, and hopefully be able to share our perspective in terms of we being the digital platform, the platform for digital business. How do we see this from the lens of a solution provider to enterprises like yourself?
So in this enablement role, Rajiv, are the conversations getting easier or tougher as part of the CEO collective, where you have spoken with many leaders, many technology leaders, many industry leaders. Are the conversations for you as an enabler, are they becoming more interesting?
Yep. So that's actually an interesting question. So let me put it this way. In terms of our mental models, we have been trained to engage with the IT function, with the CIO function, with the CTO function, and they have a bunch of questions that we are used to. When we go up, when we go to the COO level or to the CEO level, the sort of considerations, the kind of the way they look at some of this is very different. So to begin with, we heard a bunch of interesting questions coming our way, but I think we've been able to wrap our heads around those, and those have actually made our engagement with some of those customers way more meaningful. So that's been the journey.
Well, as a journalist, I've always believed the power of questions are far more enabling than the answers that they provide for. So that's what I'll be here to do, and I'm looking forward to the answers that all of you bring forth to this forum. And on that note, we'll start our power session titled Connecting the Dots, because that's what it's all about: CX, Tech, EX, and OPEX. And we are going to discuss how establishments can sort of unlock growth and improve success rates by connecting those various dots, like say customer experience, technology excellence, employee experience, and operational excellence on a single platform. So on that note, maybe we can start the discussion with a wide panel here. Maybe Asha, we'll start with you. I just came back from watching a movie yesterday, so I'm naturally predisposed to hear your point of view on this. The 4 pillars which I listed are, whether it's employee excellence, operational excellence, customer experience, or tech. Which is the key priority area for you right now?
Good evening to all, and thank you, Gautam and Rajiv, for putting the perspective in the discussion. The 4 experiences that you mentioned, I think all the panelists here would agree at least on one, that customer is the king. So that's the first experience. I don't think so anyone here would dispute that everyone works keeping the customer expectations in the mind. Whatever we create by way of product or service, it needs to serve the customer, serve the needs of the customer. The business exists because we want to serve someone. So that goes without, for me, that is the one. Second one, had it been an HR conclave, I would have said, maybe, I am tempted to say employees, because without great employees, the customers can never be satisfied. However, all of us have seen how technology and digital is transforming businesses. And especially when you see it in PVR context, even before you could come to my cinema in physical form, our app and our digital experiences serve you first. So between these 4, customer is always number 1. Before the employee comes in, my technology or my digital face actually becomes the first experience. So I personally feel in today's time, people need to really emphasize that how customer is consuming my service. So first interface, I feel technology happens first. How do they interact with my app? Or when they go online, how are they reading into my website? What are my updates on different social media? So there's a perception, there's a brand building which is happening through the digital platform. That's for me the number 2 here in my business context. Third, definitely I would now place employees here, because I personally feel that informed, well-informed and happy and content employees definitely serve their customers better.
Right.
And the digital platform can only do so much. The employees definitely come in whenever there are snags or whatever happens. I think a great service recovery or service can happen through extremely dedicated, committed team of employees.
Right.
And operations, of course, is the enabler here. So like what technology used to be, good operations, good SOPs, good standards, good branding. Operations is something that is ever evolving. It's continuous, and you borrow from various industries and you continue to make a 360-degree out of it, so that the operation excellence takes care of the employees, takes care of the digital, and of course we live to serve the customers.
All right, that's the order specified, but the customer is always the North Star
That's
for
how
any
I feel.
initiative that
Yeah.
you take. All right, Rajiv, a quick response from you, especially on the operational excellence aspect, which Asha had kind of pointed out, because I also want to understand the need for that single platform, different modules of digital transformation, but the need for single platform that comes. What are the synergies which get unlocked when that happens?
Sure, Gautam. Before I talk about the synergies, I just want to react to the order that you had. I don't know if some of you had time to look at the content that came out of the recent Gartner summit at Kochi last week. It's very interesting. At least it was. There were a few paradigms that I had which got challenged, and one of those paradigms was we've always believed in whichever function we are that customer is the king, and therefore the North Star for any organization and the top priority for the customer is actually the customer, and for the CEO is the customer and the profits. Interestingly, Gartner did a survey of about 200 CEOs, and what has come out several notches higher, almost at par with customer and profits, is actually employees. So that's the new thing which is emerging, especially with the COVID times and especially with the great resignation wave. I think each one of us are seeing it in our own organizations also, depending on what industry segment we belong to. So that was the first thing I wanted to call out, that yes, our fundamental belief has always been customer is the king. So therefore, of all these various four vectors that you spoke about, perhaps that customer vector is the most important. But to my mind, I think each organization, each industry has to look at it differently. Perhaps for a lot of industries today, employee experience is becoming paramount importance. And then, of course, technology as an enabler cuts across all these various levers. So that definitely is gaining in prominence. Interestingly, just like employee experience rose up on the CEO surveys, even the technology dominance as something which is super critical for CEOs also came up several percentage points.
And we have a diverse group of leaders here, so maybe we can get some lessons in excellence coming in from diverse sectors. So let me get Mr. Bhatia in, because healthcare is very interesting. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody would have thought we are talking about continuum of care. We are talking about care at home more versus the hospitals. And in that context, a lot of topics around, say, employee experience also comes about, because technology is also helping prevent clinician burnout, right? Because it's automating a lot of things. So from your perspective, the possibilities being unlocked when you connect the dots from customer experience, and that's interesting because healthcare also, we can now refer to them as customers, because they expect that sort of retail-like experience, whether they're going to the hospital, whether they're going to the pharmacy, so on and so forth. So tell us from the healthcare perspective, what do you think?
I think so, personally from healthcare or any industry, which is something I think so relevant across industries, I believe that all the four pillars have to work in synergy. Otherwise, you can never, because if your technology is not there, because every customer will be accessing you today through a digital platform. So if your technology excellence is not there, you can't deliver that particular type of experience. If your operational experience is not there, how you can optimize all your resources? It is impossible. If your employees are not satisfied, then, and if they are not getting a good experience, you will never be able to build up a great culture. So I think so employee experience is equally important. And finally, if all these things fall in sync, you deliver the customer experience. So customer experience, I believe, is an outcome of all these synergies falling in place, and then the final output comes into picture. Now, customers are today experiencing, they want that experience either in the hospitals or in their home spaces. Now, in different environment, the expectations are day by day going up. So, and there is nothing wrong in it. And I think so the employees and the organizations have to get geared up. How they're able to, deliver these services on a consistent basis across multiple platforms through which the customers will be accessing your services.
All right. Saurabh, maybe you want to add into that on how that aspect, which Mr. Bhatia has mentioned, has sort of also resulted in a reimagining of the work experience in the healthcare space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as much as I agree that all the pillars need to go hand in hand, I also have a view where I believe that the operational excellence and the technology excellence piece has an outcome which is eventually customer experience and employee experience. So utilizing the excellence in these technologies is what eventually we can manipulate in a way or modulate in a way where it leads to a excellent customer experience, excellent employee experience. Also from a healthcare employee perspective, since we mentioned about employees, I think it's more, it's not just an employee, but it's a passionate, driven, really motivated employee that makes a good healthcare, worker. And with that analogy, I think it's important for, us to understand not only the logistic parts, not only the financial parts, etc., but also a lot of the emotional part of the employee
get
journey.
the right kind of connect
Absolutely,
with the customer.
absolutely.
All right.
So I think from that perspective, works well.
Right. So we have looked at CX and EX. Now let's look at technological excellence. And Anuj, let me bring you in, because electronics, that business, consumer electronics, it's a very competitive business. And also in terms of user engagement, different dynamics. Healthcare has a more organic engagement where if I fall sick, I go to the hospital. So in a sense, it's a pull approach. Whereas consumer electronics might have been seen in the past, at least, having a sort of a push approach to attract customers. So in this aspect of how do you bring in technological excellence, or how do you understand the value of technological excellence to kind of to make sure that the consumer is attracted in the right way? And also, how do you go about selecting the tools? As Rajiv had mentioned earlier about the need for a single platform. So you all as leaders, you get that single dashboard view to notice whether your experiments are going right, whether your initiatives are delivering the results that you want. Your thoughts on technological excellence as the cornerstone for digital transformation?
Sure. My thoughts on this technological part, which is being the core of every discussion or every thought which is being talked around. Maybe I'll go back to the first question when you talked to her that what's being the most important. Then I'll relate to this question what we're intending to figure out. Be it a technological part or the employee or the end result of the customer experience, whichever one stands for it. To me, operational excellence, or I would say the operational basics or the excellence is fundamental. Maybe I won't call it only traditional aspect, even current or even in future. The technological aspect or building up your employee excellence, operational excellence is the basic. Till the time this is not strong enough or sustainable enough, you can't build the pillars of technological excellence. Be it in industry, we would have different tools existing on the technology front. I'm coming back to specific to your question, how we can quickly adapt or how it fits into this industry. There would be different tools available in different spheres, in terms of the customer, in terms of our trade partners, in terms of within the organization. Why every company don't adopt to it? It's good to use. It's being made for convenience. Hardly any negative aspects would be there by anyone who is developing it. Why still everybody doesn't adapt to it, and why does it take so long? The fundamental rise in your operational excellence. Or I would term it a little more simplicity, the maturity of the organization. Is every organization mature enough to adapt to that technology or the digital movement which is being happening around? Be it in the same industry or across the industries.
But then how do you break the silos? Because you might have, say, 600 SKUs which you're looking at. How do you go about it?
No, I'm not saying that it will not move forward. How fast any organization will move forward depends on your maturity. When you say maturity, how strong are your fundamentals? How strong is your employee understanding your other pillars to enable or to allow the digital thing to come in, or to what level? For example, I might go a little specific on the digitalization front, but for this industry or for any other, supply chain is the basic, right, for any organization. For a supply chain, there is a demand forecasting, which is also a big subject in any organization. There are tools available for digitalization or that AI or the ML tools which are evolving around to have the better demand forecasting, to run the start of the supply chain and the whole major business flow, as we all call it. All those strong tools which are being there, which are much more better than the earlier ones, why every company has not adopted for it? Your operational excellence has not reached to a level where you will enable that digitalization to sink in and have that efficiency come in at the right stage. So digitalization or the technological thing is nice to know, but to what extent and when to fit in your organization is another important aspect to look upon. Is our other systems, people, processes, customers, everything aligned to fit into the new digitalization move which you're getting in? If yes, get in. If not, wait for it. Go slow. Assess it and then move.
But there's a key weak point there in terms of skilling as well, especially when you look at from an employee perspective. The company might have a great plan of transformation. The key is, are the employees able to process it? Maybe Simi, you could give us a response to that. I've kind of fast forwarded the conversation, so I will rewind back to some of the points. But I just, since Anuj had kind of raised this one, I thought I'll get your point of view on this.
Yeah, so to me, technology, if you would see, is at center of everything. And I believe customer experience, technology experience, as well as the operational excellence or employee experience are nothing which you can say it's on top. And why I'm basically saying is together they will have to work. If one of the part is weak, it will not work. So if, for example, what we're talking about is if I have a great technology, but the employees don't know how to use, or we don't use the right operational methods of using that technology, or we have everything, but we are not creating something which customers really need. So to me, all of those are equal importance in today's scenario. And technology, if we use it rightly, can enable both employee experience as well as customer experience. I'll give an example. So suppose I have a great employees, engaged, good, knowledgeable, but I don't have right technology for them to be able to deliver. So then how would they really deliver? And I can have good experience, but end of the day would not have anything. Same is for if I have all of this and finally not creating something which today's customers are really needing or not advising customers in the right direction, I think it won't work.
All right. Karan, let me get you in for your perspective. Can we look at the points that Anuj and Simi discussed from a healthcare perspective? Can we look at, say, AI and ML, the possibilities that they unlock in bridging some of these gaps, whether it's from a skilling aspect, some say skills can be taught, some skills by the time you teach them, markets move forward, so you have to think of yourself as an organization and see, how you can automate certain tasks. That also helps, as I mentioned earlier, prevent clinician burnout and so on and so forth. So some anecdotes, some use cases that you could share on how AI ML kind of bridges the gap, opens up new possibilities, and also bring in an aspect of data privacy and confidentiality. How does that get protected?
Those are very important questions. Gautam, the point about AI and ML, we have to be careful while they are going to drive a lot of our customer experience and also information to be provided to clinicians, we can't cure by code. So we are still going to need trained manpower, right from the doctors to the janitorial staff, to be delivering quality care basis what they learn from AI and ML. But on specific examples on how machine learning and AI tools can help, every time you get admitted into a hospital, why should you be asked, are you diabetic or not? The system should be smart enough to be telling us that, look, this is a patient, this is the history, this is what the expectation is. And we are moving beyond consumer experience here. We are talking about patient safety, basic patient safety. So we need AI and ML to actually talk to us and tell us that. The second is from the back end. There are a lot of these disease cohorts that we now know can be better analyzed from AI and ML tools, whether it is predictive analysis of heart disease or even cancers. And that is now really going to be the next frontier in medicine. And we need an informed consumer at the other end, because there is a lot of information distortion in healthcare. You may not know enough, you may look it up the internet, but it may be distorted, it may not be applicable. And I think that's where AI and ML tools partnered with a environment which communicates this to the end consumer will drive healthcare, and I'm sure that is going to be the experience in a lot of other industries as well.
And it's interesting that I was reading a report which stated that for millennials, prevention, how they can gain the information that they can get from various trusted and verified sources helps prevent diseases, because at the end of the day, they're looking at healthcare costs and saying, better go for prevention, let me lead a certain lifestyle, let me do certain things which can enable those diseases itself to go out, and the possibilities which say CRISPR enables, whereby you can predict whether you're going to have Alzheimer's at a later stage and what you can do to kind of mitigate that. That's just one use case. Pramod, maybe your perspective on how this patient-provider relationship is transforming when we look at these possibilities which are coming about, because now it's no longer theoretical, something which I always used to have a problem on reading news reports and saying, oh, this wonderful development is about to happen, and then wonder maybe a year or two later what exactly happened to that. We are seeing more solid proof of concepts, more solid use cases coming about, where digital transformation for a variety of industries, including healthcare, is bringing tangible benefits to the users, and the pandemic, in a sense, accelerated that journey. So maybe your thoughts on this.
I'll start with giving an example. We have patients generally, when we do have a person who's been identified that he's having some symptoms or illness, he starts making a decision. Where do I need to reach out? Which hospital do I need to reach out? Either through his relatives or his friends, or through the net, web, or various apps that are there. You have the various digital apps. He makes a decision and then he decides to come into a hospital. We have around 35 to around 40 different touch points in a hospital. And there are around 30 or more people, different people within the healthcare system, catering to those different health points. Technology has helped us now to reach out to those people much before they get sick or they're showing symptoms of sickness abroad. Before they're getting, people are engaging, healthcare institutions are engaging with such people, and having identified, we're trying to go into their homes to see that they do not come into a typical brick and mortar kind of a setup for their treatment. And only if need be, they come into the healthcare system.
What's interesting is insurance providers are also getting into the game, whereby if I have a certain insurance with a provider, they provide me maybe with a sort of a wearable which tracks my health, and that connects to a hospital. So it's a sort of a vertical integration happening between different sectors altogether.
Absolutely. And we are also in the game of actually reducing the number of touch points from 35 to 40 to around 5 using technology. We're trying to also reduce the number of people who are interacting. You have 30 people who are interacting with a particular patient, a particular customer. The probability of the experience going wrong is very, very high. Can you reduce that and bring it under a controllable environment? That's something that we've been working on. We've successfully been able to do some beautiful innovations around those.
Fantastic. So we've seen a lot of developments happening in the healthcare space. I want to bring in the financial services players. So maybe we will get your perspective on this, Satish, because when we look at the home loan segment, right, pretty much standard the way that it used to work. But I saw a lot of change happening, especially during the pandemic time, on the way that entire sector, the loan sector itself works, where we saw co-creating value from customers. If customers give you feedback that this is not working, companies were very quick to kind of access that. So from your perspective, the use cases, the anecdotes which come about when you do digital transformation right, when you use AI, ML right, if you can share from your experience.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Gautam, and good evening, everyone. As you rightly said, the COVID was a time where, that mortgage business and mortgage industry has made a paradigm shift. Because before that, there was a different way of doing business, and there was a traditional way of doing business, because you know how exactly this
There's
happens.
There's always a traditional way of doing business.
And because it depends on a lot of things, a lot of touch points which are there in terms of when you are doing a mortgage business, that you need to do the title search. Now for that, obviously, a lot of things depends on the government records and stuff like that. Now, those are not digitally available. In most of the states, still there are so many things which are not digitized, and those documents are not digitally available. And then obviously reaching to the customer and stuff like that. But yes, as a company, we started long back in 2014, and we realized that, this is the time where you have to make a shift. And honestly speaking, we never felt even a day when the business has been stopped. In fact, yes, for a certain time, the collection was stopped because of some legal embargo and stuff like that.
So what's your secret? How did you sort of seamlessly connect EX and CX across business functions so that the effect was not even
I'll
seen?
just touch upon that point because I agree bit, ma'am, that I want to club these 4 in 2 bucket. And the humans, both the humans, which are customer and employees, I put them in 1 bucket. And the digital transformation and operational excellence, I put it in 2nd bucket. Now, for me, the first one is the most important. If you take care of your employees, if you take care of your customers, And parallelly, if you work on digital transformation, it will automatically take care of your operational excellence. Because when we say operational excellence, it is not limited to providing service to customer. It also includes providing that excellence to your employees. Because these non-human part and this human part put together will create a wow for your organization, right? So coming back to your question which you asked, that how exactly it helped. So lot many transformation already had started happening in the industry, barring one or two. For example, there is a platform where you can go and you can study a behavior or a paying behavior or pattern of a customer. That helps you a lot. Then obviously there are a lot many platforms which are there where you can do a KYC verification of the customer. So stuff like that. And nowadays with lot many apps, lot many modules, lot many digital platforms available, sourcing of application is very easy. So we have our own application sourcing app where the applications can be sourced digitally. So there is no need to even go and visit if required. So during COVID times, we utilized that particular platform very extensively. In fact, that is the time where our employees' behavior also got changed. To that extent, customer also got changed.
Does that still hold post-pandemic? Because you might think during the pandemic there was a need, so we had change in processes.
Now they're more comfortable. So for example, you as a customer, you are more comfortable giving things digitally rather than a physical paper because you don't know where your document, where your information will be used, how those documents will be handled. So the customer behavior also changed a lot, particularly for this, because as we all understand, when you go to buy a home, it's basically you are going to buy a dream. And majority, 95% of the population in today's scenario also, most of the customers are the first time buyer and maybe the last time buyer. And most of the customers hard earned entire family's money gets into this, and
So
this
you
is
need
not
to
a
do your
short
job
term.
right. So you need to do your
We are a
job right.
custodian of their dream. So whatever you are delivering, whatever you are promising, it has to be very transparent. You have to be very upfront to them, and so that that brand, the trust can get created in your particular company, because there are a lot many. They can go to anywhere, because now these days this pricing and everything is very parallel. You cannot fight on that. You cannot get the customer on that. It's all the experience of the customer the first time. How you are getting handled by our sales team, that is something which plays a lot of importance.
And I'll pick on that as a conversation thread, because some of the conversations that I've had with retailers, they focused on the fact that the first initial onboarding experience needs to be absolutely fantastic for any customer, because then that is the sort of bridge they build for retention. But we'll come to that. Meanwhile, Rajiv, let me kind of take stock of what we have discussed so far, because we've got so many use cases coming from home loans, healthcare, entertainment, a wide variety. So for now, I want to get from you your response to what's been said so far, and also, how should organizations look at overcoming challenges? Sort of best practices, say when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to talent struggles, culture change, the broad pointers, so to say. Your thoughts on this?
So I'll take it, respond to this in two specific areas. The first one is what we heard from some of the panelists. If I were to look at summarizing it, number one, technology being a huge enabler for how we do business, irrespective of which industry we are in, I think is a no-brainer. Nobody is really debating that. Number two, depending on which industry you are in, you may want to sort of classify your priorities on saying whether customer-related domain is a higher priority for me, or is it employee, or should technology actually take the center seat and so on, or is it operations? I completely understand if somebody is from the manufacturing, CPG, consumer electronics space, end of the day, what really determines or what really differentiates one player versus the other, versus your competitor, is your supply chains. Essentially, in that industry, you are competing on your supply chain. So I completely get it that yes, operations therefore would perhaps become the number one, take the number one spot there. But I really want to draw your focus onto a question that Gautam had asked me earlier. irrespective of, and I think a couple of us spoke about how there needs to be a balance across these four. And I think that, to me, that's a very, very pertinent point. You may have a sales function which has a bigger share of voice or bigger share of mind with the CEO, and therefore, large part of the budgets go towards the customer side of investments. But having said that, I think there is a need, all of us realize that there needs to be a balance across these four vectors that we are speaking of. Now, the other important thing that I want to draw your attention to, we've all seen technology adoption in our own companies across industries over the last 15, 20 years. The technology adoption has usually been, I don't want to use the word haphazard, because perhaps at 10 years back that was the right thing, but usually the business function in conjunction with the IT function would try and look at a point solution, or an application, if I could use that word, and I assume we are all familiar with that term. So what was really happening was, you had a business problem. It could be in the supply chain function. It could perhaps be on the customer side, and therefore you would either choose a CRM solution, or you would use a very sophisticated supply chain planning tool, and you will try and address it. It used to be the classic way of identifying a business application that met most of your business requirements, and that would help you elevate from, let's say you are at a level X, you would go to X plus delta, and so on and so forth. I think the shift that's happening there, and if you therefore look at each one of your organizations, you would typically have anywhere between 20 enterprise applications to 40, 50, and in the case of some large organizations, like perhaps SBI cards, about 100 such applications. And which, frankly, for the IT function, it is a nightmare. And the shift that is happening, and which I want to draw your attention to, enterprises today realize that while they have all these point applications or business applications, which are largely system of records, there is actually a need. There is still silos in spite of so many applications. There's actually a need for a platform to be sitting on top, which actually becomes, on top of these systems of records, it becomes your system of engagement for your entire ecosystem outside as well as your employees inside. And that is the direction in which a lot of enterprises are moving. And therefore, the need for this platform kind of approach to how you tackle your business problems, as against saying, I now have let's say, a loan management system business problem that I need to handle. Let me go pick up a loan management system software. So my submission to all of you is, the trend really is, you need to look at a platform that helps you enable not just this, helps you address this challenge through a digital tool, but it actually enables a lot of such digital innovations that you are looking at doing in your business.
All right.
So the need for a platform, really, I'm sorry I was a bit long and winded, but I did want to draw upon your own experiences of what you would have seen in your organizations, and how technology deployment has happened over the last 10, 12, 15 years to where it is now, and therefore, what potentially is the way. And by the way, what I just stated is, again, comes out of the Gartner recommendation on what the application strategy for enterprises needs to be.
All right. I'll get to Monish's perspective on a few things, but before that, I'm going to come to Mohit, because I want to hear the payments providers. What are they looking at? Because such a revolution has happened in the payments ecosystem, and when you look at the reservoir of data that you guys have, it's massive, and it's constant engagement. It's not single or unitary. So how are you using this barrage of data which is coming in, and useful data, because you can study consumer profiles. It maybe helps you serve the unbanked, because that's also come up in some of the conversations, that even if you're unbanked, your payments data, your transactions data helps players create a credit profile from them. So give us some of the use cases, the possibilities which have been unlocked right now from your perspective.
Sure, thanks so much for that. I'll actually start by answering that earlier question. And I'm firmly in the camp that tech excellence is the heart of what we, at least in payments, think. New age companies are cloud first. They build on platforms. And we genuinely believe that as long as we get this layer right, it's entirely possible to solve many of the operational challenges, enable your employees to serve customers better. And therefore, this really becomes the heart and soul of a new age tech company. Coming on to data, the data is actually quite concerning in many ways because there is so much of data out there. It's very, very hard to actually use it well enough. Talking about, say, machine learning is just about creating a feedback loop. Human beings will make mistakes. We go back and do an RC and try to solve for that particular problem. But in reality, machines can do that so much faster with possibly less bias. And of course, the jury's out on that. ML also has bias because programmers' bias creeps into the algos which are used to create AI and ML programs as well, right? So it's a bit complex there. The other piece when we think about payments data, at least in the country, is the sheer number of underserved, wherein is huge today. Credit cards, there are about 90 million credit cards out there today, but only about, that would mean 30, 40 million people, because most people who have credit cards tend to have multiple cards. And with the population of India's size, what we really want to do is expand that base. So I think that becomes one of the things which really drives us. And it's good business as well. If instead of having 90 million people using credit cards, if you have 200, 300 million people out there, that market becomes so much larger. So I'm a big believer that in the future, at least, payments will become something which we are doing in our daily life. Conversational commerce, which means all your chat platforms. You will be wearing wearable devices, so you will not need to carry potentially plastic. So the world which will happen in 5 to 10 years will be totally different from today. And remember, today is so different from what 10 years back or 20 years back that we can't even make out how much things have changed because it's changing daily. So I hope that answers the question.
So potentially new customers for you, Satish, as these credit profiles get built. So maybe you two will have a conversation. A quick comment from you before I move on to
Actually, I thank people like them because they actually helped us a lot. And particularly when it comes to collections, because earlier we used to visit, then, somebody will be there, somebody will give so many excuses, checks pakda denge, kuch kar denge, then you come back and then obviously you know the story. But with such kind of a digital platform available, such kind of a transformation which has happened in our country, it actually made our business very easy. We can go, our guy can stand there and then tell, sir, abhi transfer kariye.
All right. Well, that's what we are here for. This is a collective. We are about connecting the dots and making the connection so everyone in the ecosystem sort of grows. Let me quickly move on the conversation and come to you, Shiv, on the aspect of operational excellence, which was brought up here, because it's easy to say that we need to go for digital transformation, customer is an answer, but we still forget that there are a lot of silos which operate in an organization. So when you look at NEC, which works on large projects, a lot of them with the government, maybe you can sort of share with us the tenets of operational excellence by breaking down silos. How do you go about it?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Gautam. The answer I would like to give by going back to your statement of connecting the dots. See, NEC is a company which believes in the greater cause of society. If you look at the logo, it says orchestrating a brighter world. And if you look at the company's history, it's a 123-year-old company which works from submarine cable to satellite. And we cover every aspect of the technology that comes into use by the human beings. So when we talk about breaking the silos into the government way of working and achieving operational excellence, we have to realize that why is digital transformation needed, first of all? It is needed to solve a problem. And how do you solve that problem? The answer is with technology. And all of us have unanimously agreed that technology is the core thing that enables every solution that can solve a problem. And while you look at what we have done with the government, I think one of the most mammoth projects that we can talk about proudly today is your Aadhaar. NEC is behind Aadhaar. It is NEC's platform which is powering the needs of 1.3 billion people today. And we are talking about experience, customer experience. We have recently launched a few terminals in the select airports of the country where your face becomes your boarding pass. Imagine the convenience and the delight the customer would have getting into the airport, right to the aircraft without any hassle of going through the security guard checks and all those things. This is the experience that we are talking about. Coming to government had major, massive problems of things like logistical nightmares of tracking containers that come in, go out. Today, NEC has enabled the government to track each and every container that comes into this country. As on date, we are on daily basis tracking more than 50 million containers. Track and trace. We have given solutions to the government which has enabled smart cities, safe cities. So this is the way we have actually gone in and told them tech is the way, and customer experience speaks for itself. And again, I'll come to the another last point that is very important to put all these dots together is the employee. How do you deliver such experience? How do you deliver great technology? It is by your, I would say, very, very enriched, empowered, and happy employees. And even they need technology to reach that stage. Right?
That's true. It's the
So-
network effect of
Yes,
excellence. And
yes.
basis the experience which you shared, I still rate my experience at Changi to be the gold standard, right? Where I didn't have a human interface. It's just 3 gates. You put in your work pass or whatever. You move along the gates. And then you're home free. You can have a quick cup of coffee and then go directly to office. So we are moving there. We are seeing a lot of changes happening in India, but we've just scratched the surface so far. On that note, let me bring you in, Rajesh, because an aspect of operational excellence these days being discussed a lot is also sustainability. It's come into fore in a lot of conversation. So maybe your thoughts on that, because it's a push from both sides, corporates and customers, more coming from customers as they get more discerning. And you're in the business of providing sort of clean fuel to customers. So take us through your journey, your ESG journey, and maybe some lessons that we could learn from there.
We come from this brick and mortar industry, and the use of technology has not been that great, but now it has picked up. And Think Gas in last 3 to 4 years has helped create so many good softwares in execution and quality management and implementation of GIS system and all. So we see the advantage of it. But coming to the basic question of all the 4 things that we were debating, which is more important, to me it appears that it varies from industry to industry, and within the same industry, it can also vary within time and space. So within, I'll say, like in CGD industry, city gas distribution, natural gas industry, it has exploded so much and expanded in last few years that key is the manpower. Employee experience, I agree fully with Rajiv that that to me is on the top, and that drives everything. If you have the right kind of people, they will select right kind of IT, and implementation will be proper. Similarly, that will drive you the operational excellence, and at the end, what we achieved is the right customer service and satisfaction level. So, employee at this moment for this industry is very, very important. And technology is helping, of course. It's no brainer that it has helped all the segments. It has helped us.
All right. And the good thing is the headwinds have reduced. Now you have tailwinds in the sector that you are looking at, where it's become a solid business proposition. Earlier, you had to also battle perception as to whether this is going to be a long-term business. And that also, in a sense, helps smoothen out a lot of the other conversations.
This segment has grown exponentially, and it is going to continue like this for the next decade also.
All right, optimistic note. On that note, let me bring in Dhruv because I want to understand operational excellence from the bottom line perspective. While we might talk about the role of technology, at the end of the day, we have bean counters in every company who are going to ask you what's it going to cost us and what's going to be the impact on the bottom line, especially when we talk about people, process, assets. So take us through how you're innovating on that front, because cost optimization has also taken a sort of an innovative route. It's not just cutting costs from different departments, but optimizing costs. And that's where technology can play a major role. So maybe you could share with us your experiences.
The way I would look at this is trying to convert as many consumers as possible in retail. We typically, and break it down into offline and online modes of channels of sales. So in an offline channel, you typically have people walking into your store and you want to convert as many people as possible. Let's say if 100 people are walking in your store, you would want to have at least 30-40% people buying your products in your store. Now, what would be the enablers? The 2 of the biggest enablers, one is the inventory and second is the consumer, is the experience of the consumer, the people in the store providing that service level. The inventory, it's a given now, and I'm sure
other people will agree that omni-channel or having a live inventory within the store is a given now. You cannot have people walking into your store and you don't have the right size sets or you don't have the right fits. So that's a given. And even if you don't have it in your store, you should have enablers to get it shipped maybe from an online mode to them. The second would be a consumer experience within your store. Let's say at peak hours, you have a lot of people coming into your stores. You definitely want to have tech enablements. Let's say your cash counter gets full of people. You would want to have a simple tool as a mobile POS to be carried anywhere in the store, and that would enable a faster billing. You would also want consumer feedback to be taken either through an iPad or through the simple SMS going to them so that you know what went well and what you have to work on. So that would be the offline mode. The online mode obviously would be ensuring that you have the product again and you're able to provide it as fast as possible, having the right exchange policies and giving them the option to even return on an offline model. Let's say if your stock is not available in the online mode, you can even ship from stores. You can even give them the option to collect that merchandise from the stores. That may even help you to sell more. Ultimately, all of this leading to a better bottom line and a far better consumer experience. And especially when you are launching a new brand, you will have very few people being aware of your product and you want people to talk about it and get other people to get into your stores.
The discovery and of course the word of mouth effect, the network effect of consumers.
Very recently we did a survey how many people and how are they actually interacting with our brand. Majority of the people were talking about just walking into the store or stumbling upon the store. The other people talked about word of mouth. These two were the major factors apart from digital and TV ads. So if you're anyway having people stumbling upon your store, you want to ensure that they are the people who are your brand ambassadors and they get more and more consumers to you.
All right, as they say, the detail is always, retail is all about the details, as they say. So let's continue the conversation on that front, and let me bring you in, Oliver, because I myself have used some of the offerings, the technological backed offerings that your companies employ. And Lenskart, as you can see, I think my previous lens was from your product. So I want to understand from you how your technological journey kind of helps you in this effort to attract customers, because as you mentioned, first problem is attracting in this aspect. And when we bring in whether product manufacturing, pricing strategy, logistics, the down to brass tacks issues, a lot of problems come about. But your company has solved it through a lot of AI-based initiatives, a lot of technology. So take us through how you solve those challenges.
Absolutely. So tech at our company is absolutely core. I mean, the company ultimately is a tech company that happens to sell glasses. The point that you were making about AI on glasses is available across the world, but our company is taking it to the next level so that it really has the customer and the consumer experience right at the heart of what it does. But I think the key to answer your question is around how do you use tech in every part of your business just to create that synergy between every single shopping channel, which then enables the customer experience to be perfect in every single shopping channel. So how do you use the data in one channel that then is available in the other channel? How do you use AI online? How do you use AI in store? And how, most importantly, do those channels all speak to one another? So ultimately, whatever channel the customer shops in, they get the same experience. And I think what I see in some companies is that the systems don't talk to one another. I think the key is that every system talks to one another. So if the customer, I think that nowadays the customer is, I don't think nowadays you can say where a customer shops. I don't think you can say this customer is an offline customer and this customer is an online customer. I think people are channel agnostic. I think it's about convenience. Today I happen to be in a mall and I'll go into a shop and buy something. Tomorrow I happen to be online and I'll buy something online. It's just convenience.
That's been the biggest change actually, right? Because earlier shopping, in a sense, whether it's for glasses or anything else, it used to be a planned affair. Correct. Now it's the purchase, the experience is all unplanned. Maybe suddenly I think of, oh, maybe I need to change my glasses, and then I suddenly visit your website. How do you deal with that unplanned behavior of sort of customers that you have?
So we love unplanned, because unplanned means additional business at the end of the day. And the brand that I work in is all around the planned customer who absolutely needs to change their glasses, but also the company's moving into more fashion and is trying to say, actually, you could change your glasses every 6 months. Where most customers used to change their glasses every 2-3 years, now it's around repeat purchase. And using technology to tell the customer what's exciting, what's the point of coming into the store, what's the point of going online. So for us, it's about using technology in every part and really learning and understanding the customer needs. And then obviously, like most companies, all around personalization. And that's the key.
All right, Rishi, let me bring you in this aspect, some of the points which Oliver mentioned. How do you get data to talk to each other? That's one part. Since we are all in agreement that CX is the focus point for a lot of organizations, the question is, how do you make sure that the data is flowing across the organization in a way which is tuned to that North Star of perfect CX? Your thoughts on this?
So yes, I think the CX is definitely one of the North Stars. So one thing I want to add, it was touched upon by Rajiv and others on the single platform. And if I can just articulate differently, I look at it as a unified platform. And the reason I say unified is, unified in the sense I can have multiple platforms, but they need to be tied together with some fabric. And the reason this is very, very key because a CX has to be looked in a very holistic manner. The same customer, while looking at the product for the first time, can have multiple interfaces, online, offline. The same customer can end up, receiving multiple services, multiple products. Even after buying, the customer is interacting with the company, which means the CX experience doesn't go away from the day one when they don't know the product and the brand, all the way when they're looking for the version 2 or the next drop of the product. Now imagine this customer being served by the company. A customer service department has no clue when the product was bought, the systems are not connected. Or if a company is not able to proactively tell the customer that warranty is going to expire, they need to do something about it so that it gets served better. Or the company is not able to predict the issues that might come with the product beforehand. We touched upon AI and other things. So if you look at this this facet, keeping customer at the center, you have no choice but make sure there are proper interconnections between the different systems, different departments, and for that you need some unified flow. You call it a single platform, you call it a unified flow, you call it a fabric. You definitely need that, and I think that is going to be the key. How do you pull the data through all of this? And of course, it comes with its own pros and cons. You do that in a manner where you're not hampering the privacy of the customer either. Absolutely. As you leverage the data to serve the customer better. And I think that's a challenge, that's a balance that we all have to strike for, irrespective of the industries we are in.
But at least the fact that, the need for a single platform, that would be music to your ears. But I'll get your comments on that. Before that, I'll come to Mohnish because he's been waiting patiently. Your response to some of the points that you've heard. And I also want to bring in the aspect of cybersecurity, because we've been talking about employee excellence, operational excellence, and customer experience, so to say. All great points, but all need that sort of security layer around it to make sure that the innovations can actually deliver and companies don't need to worry about what happens if there's a breach. So what are the tenets of an effective cybersecurity strategy, if you can add to your sort of consolidated response to whatever has been discussed?
Sure, Gautam. I think first of all, let me articulate what my thought is about what customer experience is all about. Because to me, customer experience is delivering what the customer wants, when the customer wants, where the customer wants, in a manner that the customer wants it. And that takes me to, I think, the point Rajiv made earlier, in terms of building platforms using data, platforms that tell you when actually to invoke digital and when not to invoke digital, because it's equally important. I think sometimes we miss the point, the fact that in our endeavor to see that technology is probably a panacea, we fail to realize that there are some instances that we should not be using digital at all, right? Things where you need empathy. Those moments of truth when somebody is actually hassled. In our instance, for example, whenever a transaction declines, a customer is hassled because that is what my product is. My product is you are going to use it to make a payment, and suddenly it doesn't happen. Now that is a moment that you would not want a customer to be faltering around. A customer is wanting somebody to actually empathize and understand what is happening. So it's equally important for us to understand how we use data and how we use data effectively to identify at any point where the chain is breaking. Tied to that is what we really see is why do you need servicing at all? Ultimately, the tenet of customer servicing is actually there should be no need for a servicing. The very fact that you need a servicing means that there is something which is going wrong. The very fact that the customer is approaching you on a contact center, the customer is writing an email to you, the customer is even using a chatbot, means that you've not really been able to identify at the start itself what the customer needs. So the first thing is for you to identify what is it that you are selling, what is it that the customer really needs, and eliminate everything out of it. Because fixing a broken process, digitizing a broken process is not going to help you end of the day. You first need to go back, understand what the process is, make the process customer centric.
You have to become customer zero in a sense as you're thinking about
Absolutely. So you need to find out where are those touch points, what are those moments of truth that the customer is coming to you at. Tie this into the fact that where we get the employee now into it, right? So the second part, as I said, is there has to be a handoff. You need to know where to hand off a customer from a digital platform to a human platform. And that's very, very important. The customer does not really need to go around in circles. The customer has, at some point of time, you have to identify that this customer is now in need for somebody to be able to actually walk him or her through the journey. And that is where it is important for us to figure out that mix of digital. That it's a very tight rope. How do you walk that
between in the branchless banking era?
Yes, and not just that. The fact is, the last part that we spoke about, or maybe one of the parts that we spoke about, is operational excellence. And I think most of us actually tie it in with the bottom line. So the fact is that the moment we talk about operational excellence from a bottom line perspective, we are all talking about the fact, how do I actually move the customer more away from a physical aspect, whether it's a offline mode or whether it's an offline servicing or offline sales. How do I get the customer to move more online? Because we know that it's a lot more economical for us to do that. But that is where I think most of the pitfalls are. We try to push a customer, whereas that is not what the customer really wants. So you have to identify where the customer comes in. What is it that the customer is really wanting? Which is what brings me to the question that you started off with in terms of data. Now, this entire thing is available to you because there is mammoth amount of data which is available to us. Not just within the organization, but across organizations. There is so much information which is available, and how do you secure that information? Because it's very, there are two kinds of information. I think all of us know there is that information which is purely an SPII, an information which is purely and purely personal to you. So whether it's a personal information, that is something which is sacrosanct. This is something that we guard with our lives, because that is what the customer's personal information is. Then there are other kinds of information that can be used, that can be actually worked upon to identify what is that the customer needs. It's very important for us to keep those two in tandem. And those two tandem working will actually help you to identify that where is it that you need to secure the entire journey that you have with the customer. Because the customer is ultimately yours. When a customer is coming to you, you have a fiduciary responsibility. The customer is already coming to you. You cannot shirk away the responsibility of this being your customer. So you need to look at data from a very, very fine perspective. Make sure that you've got all your bells and whistles aside. You've got everything tightly wrapped around to make sure that anything that happens with the customer data is actually at the core of whatever you're doing. So there are a lot of, I would say, technology, going back to technology. That is where you would want technology to take a lead, because here, fortunately, unfortunately, humans have a tendency to err, and sometimes it's not by design. It's just that you are imperfect. As beings, we are imperfect, and so we may not really want to collude or collide. But the fact is that it would happen. So how do you eliminate this entire chance of an error happening? How do you make the technology so efficient that the data is also secure? It's actually put in a cast iron so that you are able to use it. You are able to identify the customer from it, but yet keep it secure.
Absolutely. And it's a journey towards perfection in a sense, and that's what technology does for you. You always look at where you can go next. As you mentioned, in that journey, you need to secure yourself, secure the customer journey, because data might be the new oil, but the game is securing it and refining it to unlock the possibilities that we bring about. We're almost out of time, so maybe Rajiv, we can get the last word in from you on connecting the dots, the message from you coming out of this COO Collective when we look at connecting the dots for all four aspects, whether it's customer experience, employee experience, technology excellence, and operational excellence. Your last word.
Sure, Gautam, and I'll keep it short. Looking at we're running kind of late in the day. I think I'll pick from what Rishi just mentioned. He spoke about a unifying fabric. So in my experience of having worked with a lot of large organizations like yourself, in my experience of having seen the IT journey of these organizations, like I mentioned earlier, I'll perhaps just reiterate that one more time. I think what we see is a plethora of business applications. And whereas the need at the moment, as organizations look to become more digital, I think the need is for a platform to come and sit on top of these systems of records, so that your investments are not going anywhere. If you invested in an ERP, or you invested in a supply chain planning tool, or anything else that you invested in, those system of records remain. However, what you are looking at building is a digital platform which, crudely put, connects the dots, so to say, and we've been talking about connecting the dots. It enables you, it provides you technology levers like an RPA, like an integration engine, like an automation engine, and then it gives you workflows so that, if you're looking at digitizing some of your processes which are still manual, or you are looking at building some smart apps quickly through a low-code platform, that fabric or that platform should be able to enable all of that for you. So that, to me, if you ask me, if I were to put my IT hat on, and respond to what I heard from some of you in saying, this is how you look at your priorities for the 4 vectors that we spoke about. If there is one thing that I would strongly urge you to think about is, next time when you are taking a decision, please do pause and see if it's a point business application that you are investing in, or you perhaps have an alternative to look at a digital platform that solves the issue for you, not just for the present, but actually helps you solve issues in the future as well. So that's how I would like to summarize it, Gautam.
Fantastic. On that note, we'll wrap up this conversation, which has encompassed so many sectors, so many points around the power of digital transformation, so to say, in solving the various challenges that come about, anything to do from customer experience to operational excellence. And we've been talking about customer experience. I think it's now time for a culinary experience, so to say. So I believe we have a special program lined up for all of you, a journey to the Orient to learn more about sushi and experience that. So if you could join us for that would be fantastic. Meanwhile, thank you so much from my side for a wonderful conversation. It's been a learning experience for me, and I hope the connections keep getting built. We've discovered a connection here between the payments ecosystem and the loans ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to more such connections being made. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the COO Collective. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that's the end of our discussion. I'd like to thank all of our panelists here for sharing their insights and experiences on the topic. Lots more to discuss, but for now, unfortunately, time is the enemy. But within the limited amount of time that we've had, we've gained quite a lot of knowledge around connecting the dots, whether it's customer experience, operational excellence, technological excellence, or various other facets for turning a business to growth as they look forward to the next 5 or 10 years. It's been a wonderful discussion, and to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us.